welcome back to Fantasy Nuts UK. And a lot has been going on, hasn't it, with NFL free agency? And you can catch up on a bit of that to do with fantasy football from last week's show with Andrew Cooper. He's from Fantasy Alarm. That is on the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe when you get over there. But tonight, it's a little bit different because the channel is Fantasy Nuts UK, but this is not fantasy. This is the first round NFL mock draft, and I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Martin. You can get him on Twitter, AdamM_NFL. He writes a bit of betting stuff for Bet Victor, and Freddie Hall at FreddieGTH9 on Twitter. They make up 2/5, I think it is. Is there 5 of you or 6 of you on the franchise tag? But anyway, they're part of the franchise tag.
7 for 11th. Yeah, something. This is a portion somewhere on the franchise tag.
A portion of the franchise tag crew.
That's all you got to remember. We're the important ones.
That's it. I mean, you two are top 2 now for me anyway, because you're the guys that came on. So that's good enough. But yeah, at franchise tag UK, there's constant content coming out about the NFL over there. But how are we doing, guys?
Yeah, all good. It's been a bit of a crazy season, wasn't it, Fred? But it's a bit of had a little bit of a lull, and now free agency went mental, and the draft, so we're kind of all into that now. So yeah, but no, all good.
It's certainly.
What about you, Freddie? How you doing, man?
Oh, it certainly kept us on 10 hooks this free agency, hasn't it? A lot of moves, a lot of things going on. Still a lot of moves to happen, as I keep reminding Adam, with Aaron Rodgers and also obviously Lamar Jackson and players like that that's still out there. So plenty to talk about, that's for sure. And it's a full steam ahead over at the Franchise Tag Podcast and over here as well, as it seems. So really enjoying the off season.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. A little bit of news just before we went live was Elijah Moore traded to the Cleveland Browns from New York. Now, Adam, are you a bit gutted about that? Did you want to see him go the other way in the Rodgers trade, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded seeing it happen. Obviously, not going to happen now. But yeah, he would have been a good young receiver to have. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a fan of Elijah Moore, but tonight we are doing a mock draft. As I mentioned, it will be first round, all teams. The guys might chuck in some trades, maybe somewhere, I do not know, but they're going to alternate their picks. So we're going to toss a coin. I'll go with Adam to call because alphabetically your name is first.
As it should be. Heads.
It is a head. You probably won't see that on my webcam, but
I'll take number 2.
Oh, Adam is going second. So we got the PFF draft board up here. Freddie, whenever you're ready, mate, kick us off and tell us a little bit who Carolina are taking first.
He's only gone for the number 2 pick because he did a mock draft the other day and he had the number 1 pick. So that's why he's having a change up. It's just so he can throw me off. Luckily, I did a mock draft the other day, so I'm quite prepared for this. Carolina Panthers obviously moving all the way up to the number 1 pick. It's got to be a quarterback. It's certainly going to be, I think, one of these 2 guys. Bryce Young from Alabama is certainly a very good quarterback, but I think they might lean towards someone like CJ Stroud from Ohio State. He's got it all, really impressed in the last few games in the season, impressed at the combine as well. There was also a stat. I'm definitely recycling this stat from Adam and Andrew and other podcasts I've heard. But the coaches over there, the coach has never had someone under 6'3" or something like that. Frank Reich, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Frank Reich has he's been a head coach, offensive coach, or a quarterback coach for 17 years, and in only 6 games has he had a quarterback under the size of 6'3". I think was what it was.
So yeah, he likes a big guy there.
That's a hell of a stat, and I think CJ Stroud is maybe the guy that they'll go to. Ohio State quarterbacks had a bit of a bad rep in the last few years, but CJ Stroud's my pick here.
I'll click draft on CJ Stroud, but he showed up today at the Ohio State Pro Day as well, as did Jackson Smith and Jigba, run a very nice 40-yard dash time. But he really impressed at the combine. He made everything look so easy. I know Bryce Young never worked out and things like that, but he was the best of the bunch for me at the combine. But pick number 2, the Houston Texans. Adam, what we doing now?
So the Texans have also got to go quarterback. With CJ Stroud off the board, I think they will probably go for Bryce Young. To be honest, he is, perceived as the best quarterback. The only thing that he really does have lacking is size, and height and weight is the biggest problems for him. But at the same time, if you actually look at a lot of the stats for him, he has performed quite equally or better than CJ Stroud in certain areas that you would expect him to struggle with. So I think he's going to be more than capable in the NFL. And also, it kind of feels like he's a bit more NFL ready with certain things. Not everything, but with certain things. So I think he is probably. See, I really liked Stroud. I thought Stroud was really good in the combine, looked really smooth, was a great workout that he had. But I just think that if you look at the tape in college, Young is the one who's probably done a bit more. So as Fred has taken Stroud, I will go for Bryce Young.
Yeah, for me, they're the 2 guys that I expect to come off the board at 1 and 2 as well. Like you say, in games, Bryce Young probably has the edge over Stroud, and then maybe the other way around. But as we know, Bryce Young didn't work out at the combine. So, Freddie, Arizona at 3. Do you think they stick and pick, or do you think they'll be looking to move back maybe?
I mean, I think they're going to be shopping this call. They've got to be shopping this call. I mean, I suppose I could speak to Adam about whether you think that maybe we could do a trade here if you want. I know who I will pick if a stick here. But do you think? I feel like if we're going to do trades, we need to chat about this together, don't we? If the Cardinals are going to move down, it's going to be maybe the Falcons moving up, the Titans maybe moving up, maybe even the Commanders.
I had this kind of a similar chat with Andrew, and it all kind of centered around Lamar Jackson and where Lamar Jackson might go, which makes this really difficult to kind of judge, because obviously he's still at Baltimore. So it becomes very, very tough to kind of work out. At this present moment, I don't see who's going to be willing to trade up. Like, this is the thing. I find it... If Lamar Jackson was to go to, say, like Atlanta, and then the Ravens have got the pick number 8, then it makes sense for them to trade up. But because no one has Lamar Jackson at the moment, apart from the Ravens, I don't really see who would do it and what they're doing it for, because it feels like the Colts wouldn't trade up because Arizona's not going to take a quarterback. Seattle have got Geno. The Lions seem fairly okay with Goff, and they don't need to spend loads to go up. The Raiders have just brought in Jimmy G, which they could have for a few years. So it feels a little bit like who's doing it. Maybe the Falcons. I mean,
we've also got to remember that there's 2 stud quarterbacks coming out next year, and a lot of these teams, I think, are going to be in these sort of areas picking again. So they are going to maybe just sit back this year and hold on to their draft capital, hoping that maybe they have not hoping they have a higher pick, but knowing that they may be in the region there. So I think, should we stick and pick? I'm going to stick and pick on this one, I think.
Yeah, I think it's probably the way forward.
Go for it.
I think this is basically penciled in for months now. It's Will Anderson, the edge out of Alabama. They've never really replaced Chandler Jones. The Cardinals, they brought in JJ Watt. Obviously, he's now retired. Their front 7, it's decent in areas, but it really needs an X factor on that edge. Will Anderson can be the Aiden Hutchinson of last year, of coming into a team that has a poor defense and being the X factor straight away. Tremendous athlete. I mean, most people are putting him and Jalen Carter as the top 2 actual players coming out of this draft. I think if the Cardinals may shop their pick, but they'll be delighted to walk away with Will Anderson if they can't get more draft capital by trading away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's probably the best player in the draft, similar to like Aiden Hutchinson last year. But it's an interesting one on the quarterback front, like you was mentioning, because Atlanta are very publicly out on Lamar Jackson. So it's almost like, and then they brought in Heineke as a backup, and so it's like they're giving Desmond Ridder a shot. But if he stinks, they've got a competent backup, and like you say, there's a couple of guys next year, because they're likely to have an early one if they do stink. And the Colts are the interesting one for me, because I can see them potentially making a run at either Lamar or maybe trading for Trey Lance or someone like that. But number 4, the Colts on the clock.
Right, this is the real reason that I wanted second pick, because in the one that we did with Andrew, he took Will Levis at this pick, and I'm just not having it. He's not going to be going this high. Anthony Richardson is sitting there. They need a quarterback. I think they make sure that they get themselves just a steady backup style guy in there as well, and just learns from Richardson. And I think the Colts will take Richardson just purely because someone is going to gamble on this guy. It's you saw what you saw at the combine. It's exactly the same as Trey Lance. They're going to gamble. The 49ers did it with Lance. I think you're going to see the same again with someone with Richardson. And the Colts just, they need a quarterback. And so you just sort of think, even now, his throwing ability is not great. His accuracy isn't brilliant at the moment. But if you put him on that field, he would do so well rushing the ball. And he'd get you through certain things just purely from that. And he can be taught how to be more accurate and to have a better throwing arm. So for me, I think the Colts go Richardson, and I think they gamble on it.
If the Colts didn't go for Lamar Jackson, they're picking basically Lamar 2.0, aren't they here?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like the only thing that sort of for the Colts, I don't think they'll be taking Richardson or even Levis. Well, I really don't like Levis personally, and the sort of the jury's out on him, isn't it? It's very split at the minute. But Anthony Richardson is very, very raw, similar to Trey Lance, and he needs to sit for a year. Now, I think if they was planning on doing a move like that, they would have signed someone a bit more his style than Gardner Minshew. Because if they've got Minshew for a year and then Richardson next year, he's not ready day one for me. But if they going from Minshew to Richardson, it will be a completely different offense.
But I think the problem is it's what you've got. So they're in that position. Then they're not going to get pick 1 or 2 now. So they're kind of in that position where they've got a choice of going for Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, or not taking anyone at all and just waiting and hoping that they find someone or whatever. So it kind of feels like they have to go for someone. I think they will probably go for the massive upside of Richardson over Levis, because it just feels like you'd get more out of Richardson. I understand it's not the same as Gardner Minshew, but you've got a guy in Minshew who can play and sort of get you so far, and sort of like get to a point where Richardson is more capable. I think you might see Richardson come in for certain plays almost a bit a la Taysom Hill as well. You can have him come in and do stuff like that. So I think because of that, they'll just take the gamble.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand it. You're like, the athletic traits are ridiculous. But number 5, Seattle. And this is where I would have had Richardson primed for to go behind Geno. But Freddie, number 5.
Well, I mean, it could take Will Levis and sit him behind Geno. But I don't think they will do that. I think they're pretty impressed with what Geno did last year. They've signed him to a good few years. Again, a team that if it really spiral out of control this next season, they could go into the next draft going, well, if we have a high pick, we can get one of the quarterbacks coming out there. I think they're going to focus on defensive line here. I'm going to go edge rusher. I think it's an area that they've needed to address for a while. They've had some older guys come in and out. And I'm going to go for Tyree Wilson. He's also been someone that people have penciled in going to Seattle Seahawks for a while. Really good edge rusher. After Will Anderson, I think there is a lot of people are tossing up about who's the next best. I think Lucas Van Ness is up there, Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy. I'm just liking Tyree Wilson here. I think he's had enough about him that Seattle could go for him. But again, I agree with that they could maybe go for a couple of edge rushers, but I just think they'll settle on Tyree.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I really like him. I'm quite high on him. And I think he will command sort of top 10 value anyway. But pick 6, the Detroit Lions, their first of 2.
Go on, Adam. You know you want to do it. Pick him. Pick him.
Well, pick 6 is really difficult because it depends what we want to do and what is going to happen. Now, Freddie might have heard this story if he's seen the mock draft that we did. Now, I was listening to Broshmo, who does a lot of mock drafts and college stuff. And he was saying that he knows someone either in the organization or someone who covers the Detroit Lions. And Jalen Carter is off the board. He's not, they don't want to pick him. Because of all the trouble that there's been, and probably, and what is, I would argue, slightly more concerning, not so much the off-field stuff, but the fact that he turned up for that workout and he just looked awful. He really did, and he didn't even finish the workout. So, yeah, because of that, I don't think they're going to take him, despite the fact that Freddie wants them to. I just don't see it happening. So I know that they've addressed the corner position quite a bit. They've brought in Cam Sutton, which is a big move for them. They've brought in Emmanuel Mosley as well, although I feel like Emmanuel Mosley is a bit like the Patrick Peterson one for the Steelers. I feel like it's there to help the younger guys. So I feel like they're still going to go corner, which is something that a lot of people have said for a while. So I think they're going to go corner. A lot of people are mocking Devin Witherspoon, thinking that he's the best one. I personally think Christian Gonzalez is what they'll go for. I think he's that bit taller, a little bit quicker than Witherspoon. And I just, from his tape, personally, I think he's the better one.
Yeah, he's a bit of a different profile to Witherspoon, and I really believe they could add to the secondary, whether it's Witherspoon, Gonzalez, or even Brian Branch in the first round. I know they recently got Gardner Johnson, but, why not just bolster that secondary where they struggled a little bit last year, didn't they? But they've got Jeff Okudah, who's healthy and things like that, and, he's still a shutdown guy, and yeah, it makes sense. I think they add to the secondary. Freddie, pick 7, Las Vegas.
Well, they need a bit of everything, don't they, the Raiders? You could go for anyone here, and it would be an improvement on what they've got. It's a very troubling time at Las Vegas Raiders, I think. And I'm going to go for offensive line because I just feel like they never do address it. They've made picks there. It's not getting better. It could be quarterback. I know it says their team need his quarterback, but I think Josh McDaniels wants Garoppolo in the build. He was there at the Patriots with Garoppolo. I think he did believe that he was the heir apparent. And I think McDaniels wants to run his offense a certain way, and Garoppolo's the guy for that. So I'm going to go offensive line because they do, Jimmy G with his injury history, they do need to keep him upright. I'm going to go tackle. I'm going to go for Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. Real big, strong, physical offensive tackle. Again, there's some people who are tossing up who's the best tackle in this class. I think Skoronski's definitely up there in the conversation. It could be a toss-up. I mean, it says the team needs their defensive back as well. A defense in general for the Raiders, I think, is needed. I'm going to go for Skoronski. I think give Garoppolo some more protection. Give him a fighting chance to try and work within this offense and get them going.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm not sure how long ago PFF updated this, but I really don't think the Raiders need a quarterback or will be looking there early. Number 8, Adam, Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, they're another team where it's a little bit difficult because there are so many holes on that team. It does feel like they're probably going to go with Ridder. And like you say, they've got Heineke as well. So it feels like they're going to stick with that. You could go wide receiver, but it feels a little early for me. And I just don't think they're going to go down that route. I think they kind of need to help on the defense. That's kind of where, for me, I think they need to go. I quite like. There's a few different people you could go for. I mean, they could go for Jalen Carter, but I don't think they will. I don't think it will suit. I think they're probably more likely to go edge myself. And looking at that for the edge, I think Lucas Van Ness, is the guy who feels like the next best edge rusher there. I know a lot of people like the look of Nolan Smith because of his speed. Andrew is a massive fan on our podcast of Miles Murphy, thinks he's really good. But for me, I just think Lucas Van Ness is probably the guy that they will go for in a position they need a bit of help at.
Yeah, he tested really well at the combine as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did really well. Really, I think he had quite a very quick 40. But also just a lot of the drills he did really well at. So yeah, I think that's probably where they're going.
Yeah, I like that. Right. Pick 9, Freddie, Chicago. They moved down from number 1. They got an absolute haul. They brought in DJ Moore, couple of firsts, couple of seconds. This is their first pick this year. What do you see them doing? Because it's a minefield to me. This definitely hasn't been updated because it still says they need a wide receiver. But yeah, Chicago.
I completely agree with the Lucas Van Ness pick, by the way. Adam for 8. I think that's a really good pick for them. I think the Bears, if this is how it falls, will be called the winners of the draft because they've traded out the number 1 pick. They've got DJ Moore. They've got a haul of picks. And they've got they were predicted to take at number 1 only a month ago. Yes, things have come out about him. But things have come out about players. I was only reminded by Andrew the other day that I was very against Micah Parsons being a top 10 player because of the problems he had. Now, he did drop out of the top 10. He didn't drop as far as I thought he would. I thought he dropped to about 15 to 18. He only went to 12 in the end with the Cowboys. But I'm going to stop the dropping. I'm going to take Jalen Carter here, arguably the best player in this draft. I think the Bears, though they've had a fantastic free agency, are looking to build in the trenches. And they've done that with a few of their acquisitions already. I think they go out and get the best player in the draft in most people's opinions. I've got to stop the fall. I can't let them go to the Eagles. I know too many Eagles fans that will give me so much shit about it if he gets to there and they'll just carry on talking about it like they always do. So I'm stopping the drop in. Jalen Carter's going to the Bears.
If Ryan Poles brings in Jalen Carter and keeps him quiet for a year, not doing no silly things, gets him in shape and smashing how he did for Georgia, he could go down in Bears history as a legend. Like, he really could. For making that trade.
I think I'm not educated enough to give my proper opinion about the whole situation with Jalen Carter off the field, but it is very historical of an NFL that players do come into the draft with issues, and sometimes off-field issues. Now, sometimes it completely doesn't work, and that's fair enough, but also sometimes it does completely work. And you never hear people out there again. Unfortunately, that is the NFL world we live in, where a lot of things do happen off the field sometimes. Some things are forgotten and some things do stand out. Unfortunately, that is the NFL reality. We'll see what happens with Carter, but if he can play at the Georgia level that he played at in the last few years, then the Bears have got a steal here. And you're right, Lewis, that Ryan Poles will go down in history for the Bears if this all works out and that, can get back to winning ways once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't put it past it being a sort of Chicago move as well to draft him there if he escapes the top 8. I think that's not a bad shout. Adam, over to you, mate. Any thoughts on Carter first?
You've kind of screwed me over there because Philadelphia is the logical place. It just feels like that's where he's going to fall.
No.
I just think he's clearly a very talented player, and to be brutally honest, probably the best player in the draft. I mean, him and Will Anderson are very much depends how you want to go. But it's like I say, the off-field problems are off-field problems. We've seen many players come in the NFL with that, and it hasn't been an issue in their career. But the real worry is that from the time of the combine to the time of when he did his pro day and just how much weight he had put on and how bad he looked, that's the real concern, and how quickly it just all disappeared. And I just kind of feel like you need to have people around him who are very sort of focused on kind of getting the best out of him. The Eagles is an obvious place for him to go because of that.
Yeah.
And as much as it would pain all of us if he did go there, but it would kind of make sense. I think because of that.
I'm actually going to interrupt you, sorry, Adam, because I was going to maybe propose a trade for you.
For who? The Eagles?
For Eagles, yeah. They historically like to wheel and deal at the draft.
Okay.
Let's hear it. Who are you thinking? Who's moving up?
I don't generally do think this will happen, but I do think it's fun to mock it and it's fun to look at this, and it's also how players have felt as well. I think that because Devin Witherspoon, I mean, I'd have liked if Christian Gonzalez got there, but do you think the Steelers would like Devin Witherspoon enough to move up to the Eagles pick?
Let's look at who comes after the Eagles. So you got the Titans, who could look bloody anywhere, really. You got the Texans, who probably ain't gonna go defense. Maybe probably would have been a lineman, but there's too many gone. Then you got the Jets. They got Sauce from last year. Patriots, bigger needs. I don't know. Do you think they need to jump up that high?
I don't know whether they want to jump up that high, but then that would be, you would be getting arguably that in some people's eyes it is Christian Gonzalez, in some people's eyes it's Devin Witherspoon. If Devin Witherspoon's there, would you think they risk going up? I don't know. I'm maybe just putting this more out to discussion than maybe saying let's execute it.
Especially if they feel like Philly.
I think
especially if they feel like Philly could be moving back.
It would cost the Steelers a lot, and this cornerback class is pretty strong, in depth, and it just feels a little bit like it would be a big move, but not really. You're just not really gaining a lot. Fair. I mean, you're giving up a lot.
That's fair. Especially when we've got the 32 pick as well.
When does Jerry Jones make his splash for Bijan Robinson here? Could it be at pick 10?
With the Eagles? No, I don't think so.
They traded with the Eagles to go and get They traded with the Eagles to go and get Micah.
True.
It could be stranger things have happened.
So I'm gonna go edge again. I think it's not necessarily their main need. I think defensive line is probably a big need for them after losing Javon Hargrave, but they did lose Dillard as well. So I think I'm probably gonna go edge. I think given who's there, I'm going to go Miles Murphy. I think out of the two, out of Miles Murphy and Nolan Smith, I think they'll want the slightly bigger guy, not quite so quick, but still slightly bigger guy. So I think Miles Murphy is what they'll go for.
interesting because Jordan Davis, who they took in the first round last year, was a national champion out of Georgia. Do you think they're going to swing on potentially it being Nolan Smith, maybe?
Possibly. I just feel that he's a little bit smaller. That's the problem with Nolan. They kind of rotate their D line and O line a lot, don't they? And I just kind of feel like that's the thing that they'd want, the bigger guy. But I mean, Nolan Smith would be a great pick as well. So.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty even on for me anyway. But we're witnessing the fall of Will Levis, and I love it. Let's fire through picks here anyway. Pick 11, Tennessee.
Oh, don't worry, I won't be long with Tennessee. I think there's been a lot of different players going to the Titans in a lot of mock drafts. I just think there is no obvious Taylor Lewan replacement. Their overline has been bad. I've been mocking Paris Johnson here a lot, but he has a lot of guard flexibility. I don't think they need that. I think they need a big guy as a bookend. So I'm going to go Broderick Jones out of Georgia, I do believe.
Oh, Georgia.
Real big body tackle. Nice. Some people think he's going to be the best offensive line. There's a couple up there in that conversation, but real big guy. You've got your bookend replacement for Taylor Lewan going. You've got some cheap years out of him if he goes to left tackle for you. I don't know if he has tackle right left flexibility, but at least you've got one of your bookends for the future.
Yeah, this class don't have a sort of Penei Sewell at tackle, but there is a few good ones that could go in the first round. Pick 12, Houston.
Yeah, so they've got their quarterback with Bryce Young. I think they're going to want to... part of me feels like they're going to want a weapon, but they have brought in quite a few wide receivers. I wonder if what they might go for is they might decide to try and protect him, and they can do that by bringing in... I don't know. Houston's a really difficult one because there's lots of different areas that they could go down. It feels like they need help on the O-line. There's a reason they're the number 2 pick, isn't it? So it's like they've got a lot of gaps there. So I actually wonder whether they might be slightly more just best player available in that respect. So, I mean, you've got Devon Witherspoon there that I feel like they might go for. They do need help on the D-line, so Kalijah Kancey would be a good shout. And then if they did want to, you could go for Paris Johnson as well. I think they go Devon Witherspoon. I think they just get the best player that's available to them, and they have some help on the defense.
It's a really interesting one because defensively they're not actually that bad, and they could probably fill a hole in the trenches. But
yeah,
it's a like you say, they've got so many holes. Best player available does make sense. Pick 13, the New York Jets. If they still have it.
If they still have it. I've been going tackle here a lot of the time, and I think I'm going to stick with it but it was my fault. I took Broderick Jones, to be fair, but I'm going to go Paris Johnson here. I think, and you got tackle guard flexibility. Fantastic player for Ohio State. Just builds that O-line up just more. I know they've got some good players on the O-line already, but it's going to make Aaron Rodgers even more happy to go there when he gets extra protection. So, I'm going to get Paris Johnson, really quality player.
Like it. PFF have still got the Patriots wanting a quarterback. Adam, what we saying there?
I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I think that they desperately need some similar to the Jets, where, like you said, with the tackle situation. I think had Paris Johnson fallen to him, that would have been great, but he hasn't. I actually think Anton Harrison has shown that he's a really good tackle in college, and I think they will go for something like that. They're very. It is tough with the Patriots. You never know exactly where they're going to go, but I feel like Anton Harrison just feels like a bit of a Patriots pick as well. It's not the best of the tackles, but it's certainly a quality guy, and yeah, I could see that happening.
You didn't think this one through. Freddie's got Green Bay.
No, I did think it through, so that I didn't have to have Green Bay.
And I'm gonna make Adam sort of happy with this. I'm gonna make Adam sort of happy with this one. I've mocked Brian Brzee here every time, pretty much, because I think they'll go defensive line. But to cause a bit of controversy and to have a bit of fun, I think the final farewell finger up to Aaron Rodgers might be that they take Quentin Johnson, wide receiver, here at ECU. Because it does make sense. They've lost a fair few wide receivers. They've lost their tight end. It would be the nail in the coffin, and it would be pretty hilarious, to be honest. And I am doing it for sort of my own. But I know Adam would also be quite pleased to see him go there. So, you know. And it gives Jordan Love a weapon.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and a weapon that doesn't know the Aaron Rodgers system.
Yeah. No, I would love to see Quentin Johnson there, you know, and he matches the profile that that Brian Gutekunst and the Packers front office go for. They always go for big-bodied receivers, so he would be a really good one to have. I personally think that Smith and Jigba's the better receiver, but it's a different position, so you know.
The biggest weapon on the Packers offense, regardless if who they bring in free agency, wide receiver, running back wise, whatever, or in the draft, the biggest weapon on the Packers offense is Jordan Love. He is an absolute fucking wet wipe. I do not see him taking over them reins any way, shape, or form, how anything like Rodgers can do, but it'll be fun and give him a weapon. Why not?
Yeah, I think it's going to take time, isn't it? It really is, and it's like all of them. It was the same with Rodgers. Rodgers' first season was bad, so you know no one remembers that. But he struggled in the first year, so it's going to take time. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. He needs game time. That's what he needs. So we'll have to wait and see. But
might get plenty in the XFL in 2024. Who knows? Pick 16, Washington.
Right. There's not. So they do need help at guard and center and things like that. But there's not really anyone there that I'm particularly excited for. I don't know. They've got a pretty strong defense, haven't they? They're not bad at defense, but it feels like they're a team that should do better than what they do. Like when you look at their overall team, and it's just the defense doesn't really seem to do that much. But I just feel they're going to go for a bit of best player available as well. I mean, the only thing is whether they went for someone like Will Levis. I don't see it. They seem keen to go for Sam Howell, and also they've brought in who have they brought in? Is it Jacoby Brissett?
Jacoby Brissett, yeah.
So it just feels like they're not going to go there. So I kind of look at who's around, who the best players are. I think Brian Branch at safety. I think that is something where they can sort of like have someone there who's a decent player and can help that defense a bit more as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, like you say, best player available for them at the time. I can't see them making any moves this year in the draft, but 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
My team. Well, this has felt perfect.
Will Levis replace Kenny Pickett?
Say again.
Will Levis replace Kenny Pickett?
Oh, no, I don't think that'll happen. I'm going to go with the obvious one, Joe Porter Jr., cornerback. Dad played for the organisation. It's just written in the stars that we're probably going to take him. Whether I agree with that or not is maybe a different opinion of it, but he's a quality corner. It's a Steeler move to make.
Yeah,
I would like to go offensive line. I just don't think you need to at this point. If one of the top O linemen had fell there, I'd have gone them and then got a corner later on. I mean, you could have gone Anton Harrison. But I'm going to go Joe Porter Jr. A lot of people are having this mocked. It's sort of written, isn't it, now in a way?
Yeah, so with the 4 tackles gone because Harrison was to the Patriots there.
Oh, Harrison's gone as well.
And then you got Johnson and Broderick Jones. Yeah. So the top four are sort of a gone, and I love that Joey Porter. He's been rising. I was hopeful at one point he would make it to 23 for my Vikings, but I don't think that's less and less likely each day. Detroit back on the clock at 18.
Yeah, Detroit, I think they need a little bit. I mean, we know, don't we, that they can put points up, but where they struggle is on the defense. We've just brought in a corner, which I think is a really useful move in the first pick. So in this one, I think we're going to go D-line. I really like Elijah Cansey. I think that he's quick, he's explosive, and he will probably match up quite nicely on that quite young D-line that's already in Detroit. So, yeah, I think Cansey for them.
Yeah, if Cansey gets to 18, I think that's a smash for Detroit, and they would have a great draft so far if they nail them to there. But yeah, pick 19, Tampa Bay. Is it almost Bijan time now?
It's not Bijan time yet. It's anybody but Baker time. Will Levis, get him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. People want Will Levis to be Josh Allen. That's what people are trying to comp him as. Will that happen? We just don't know. He's definitely a capable quarterback. Some people are really, really out on him. I can understand why you would be out on him. But I think I've not believed in Baker since day one. I don't think the Bucs have. I think he's just sort of an in-between quarterback, a bridge quarterback, sorry, if you will. I'm going to stop the Will Levis drop. I do think he goes earlier than this Will Levis, but in our mock, this is where he's fell to. I think it makes complete sense. They need to free up some money, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. This could be a good opportunity for them to just start the ball rolling on a whole new future for Tampa Bay. They had their Super Bowl with Tom Brady and a lot of their stars. A lot of these stars are regressing, getting older. It's a new dawn in Tampa Bay.
I'll tell you something, if he takes over the reins from Baker Mayfield, which don't seem to be too much of an issue for other competition he's had recently, but if they don't get rid of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Rashad White out of the backfield, Will Levis is probably set up the best out of all these rookie quarterbacks so far, if this happens.
Well, I don't know if Anthony Richardson had Jonathan Taylor next to him, but then again, he's got no wide receivers. There's no wide receivers there, is there? So,
yeah,
the Bucs are in a bit of a strange situation. I mean, obviously, it does feel like for now, because you do have Mike Evans there and Chris Godwin, so it's two great receivers. They're not particularly strong at running back now that Fournette's gone, but they have got Rashad White, I think, isn't it, at the Bucs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like him.
And obviously that defense is still relatively good. So you could argue that he is, but I think he'd probably sit behind Baker, wouldn't he? To be honest, in the first year, well, certainly at the first part of the season. So,
I mean, it's a winnable job if Baker's the number one, isn't it? Though, there's certainly harder jobs to win in the NFL.
Yeah.
Pick 20, Seattle are back on.
Seattle, I have been saying for quite some time that I think it's the defense that they need to improve, and that's where they've struggled. But there is a couple of decent wide receivers out there, and I know that they've got Metcalf and Lockett, but I feel like they just need another weapon of some kind there. To me, the best wide receiver is still on the board, and I think if he's there, Seattle will take him in Jackson Smith and Jigba. The fact that he's still there is pretty crazy. So, yeah, I'm going to go for him.
Yeah, it's quite mad, isn't it? Like the second guy off the board at pick 20, it's almost like I feel a little run coming on.
Well, I'm not going to continue the wide receiver, unfortunately, because I'm going to buy into the rumours of Austin Eckler leaving the Chargers. So I'm going to take the fun pick here. Bijan Robinson, the beast from Texas, is going to go to the LA Chargers, replacing Austin Eckler. He's a quality running back. Some people, Andrew, who's one of our co-hosts, believe that he will be in the top 10 picks. I think that's quite frankly ridiculous. I think though he's a quality running back, I don't think we're in a world anymore where running backs go this high. It's an immediate thing for LA. I think they do really believe in what Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They're obviously very bought in on Justin Herbert. If Eckler goes, that is a large hole in their offense that is missing, and Bijan Robinson would be the perfect guy to fit right in there and be smash his way to rushing yards and rushing touchdowns for his debut season.
If Eckler goes, I like it. I still don't see him falling that far. I think I agree with Andrew that he's going to be a top 10 guy. There's not been a running back like him coming out since Saquon.
I think for me, he's the person you trade up for.
Yeah. That's where the splash of the first round will come, I reckon. But Baltimore Ravens, they've got not so much holes, but they need depth, don't they? Once their starters, if they go down or they rotate, the next man up isn't very good. What do you think Baltimore do?
So one area that they desperately need to sort out is the wide receiver area. They've come out and said that that is something that they're going to go for. Rashad Bateman is kind of the big-bodied receiver there, so I think they're going to want. They've got Devin Duvernay, but he's not really progressed that well, so I think they're going to want a bit of a speedster there.
Yeah.
Really, you've got a choice of Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers, to be honest. But I think if you're literally going for pure speed, I think Zay Flowers would probably make the most sense.
Yeah, I like that. Right. My Vikings now, Freddie. Be kind. You've had all three of our teams.
I have had all three teams now, haven't I? This pick is I find quite hard with the Vikings, to be honest, every time. And I sort of do every time go for sort of best player available. I think I'm going to stick at doing that. I think I like Brian Brzee here. I think the Vikings love to have strong trenches. Nolan Smith could be something. I just don't think that's the focus at the minute. It could definitely be a corner as well. I mean, Brian Brzee gets someone who's really technically gifted, a real good player. People would say Brian Brzee at 23 is a steal. I think people would be quite impressed that you got him that low. Strengthen up that interior.
Did you see how quick I hit that draft button?
So you're very happy with the pick, then?
Of course, it's a steal. Yeah, I'd love that. I just don't see him falling that far, to be honest. But yeah. Right, Jacksonville then. Sorry, Freddie.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah, crack on, Jacksonville.
So for the Jags, I kind of feel like obviously losing Jawan Taylor is kind of the big hole that they have now. But when you look at the O-line and especially offensive tackle, there's not an insane in anything that great there anymore that I feel like they would use a number one pick on. So I'm kind of a little bit reluctant to do that. Anywhere else, I feel like the offense is in like the sort of like receiving options and the running backs are kind of in a good spot when it comes to the Jags. So I think they're going to go defense. You look at kind of who's available and who the best players are. I think they go corner just to make sure they've got a bit more depth in that area. So Deontay Banks is the one that I would be looking at for them out of Maryland. I think he's the best one left at the moment.
Similar to Bresci, I think that's a really good value down there at 24 as well.
Now, do I go for New York Giants are just going to play Darren Waller, Daniel Bellinger, and Dalton Kincaid at the offensive positions? This could certainly be the Jordan Addison spot. I don't think Addison is definitely the type of wide receiver they want there. But you look around, I mean, what other wide receivers have we got on the board? You could go Jalen Hyatt, who's
you got Jordan
fast.
Anderson, Josh Downs.
Nah, I don't like any of that. I don't think. I think
Josh Downs.
You know what? I shouldn't be overthinking it. I'm going to go Jordan Anderson. I would usually go Jackson Smith and Jigba gets to me here, and I'm going to go for Jordan Anderson because I can say, oh, but they've got this player. Well, inevitably that player is going to be injured, so Jordan Anderson is going to play in that position because the Giants seem to just lose wide receivers year on year. So I'm going to go Addison there. Keep a few Giants fans happy there.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. Adam, are you there?
Right. Yeah, I'm here. Dallas normally want to go for something pretty splashy and make a big move. And it feels like the wide receivers of the real top wide receivers have now gone. So there isn't someone there. I think they go for the next best thing, to be honest. And given the fact that Dalton Schultz has moved on to the Texans, I think we're going to go for a tight end. And out of all the tight ends that are probably the most receiver-like tight end is Dalton Kincaid, certainly over Michael Mayer. I think Mayer's more of a blocker. Kincaid is a very good receiving option, so I think they'll go for him.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I still see them potentially moving up. I think Jerry's going to want to come and put his stamp on the draft and things like that. But if they do sit at 26, Kincaid's a decent option. Yeah, definitely. Pick 27, the Buffalo Bills, who have just signed Damian Harris as well.
I don't know who to go for here for the Bills. Can I just check out what corners are left, please?
Yeah.
Now you feel
like I will filter it to
Carol Vorderman now.
A corner, please. Right.
Corner, please. Have a look. I think they need someone in the back.
Daniel Forbes, Mississippi State. Cam Smith, South Carolina.
I mean, I'm leaning to either a cornerback or a Cyrus Torrance, the guard out of Florida, because I've read a lot of really positive things about him. But there's a lot of people that think he may sneak into the first round. But I don't want him to go there. I want him to go somewhere else. And I'm hoping, it'd be Adam's pick, but that's fine. That's okay. If it's Adam's pick, it's Adam's pick. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go for a corner. I think I'm going to go for Cam Smith. I'm going to stop Cam Smith from falling. I've actually got Cam Smith going a little bit higher than a lot of other people. I've heard a lot of really positive things about him as well from at South Carolina. The Bills, they can upgrade they're good in most positions. Corner has been something that they didn't do well with last year because they kept getting injuries. Offensive line could certainly be something they look at. I just don't think there's any enough value here. Maybe this could be a Bills trade out spot. To be honest, this could be a trade out spot easily for the Bills.
Now, I don't know if it was their second or third, but NFL Draft Buzz, of their offensive line profiles, whether it's guard or tackle or center, Cyrus Torrance they've got as like their second or third highest graded player. So it's going to be interesting to see with him.
I've had him going. Not that Adam, this will influence pick. Maybe you go for it, maybe you don't. But I think he'll go for the Eagles. I think the Eagles will take him at 30. I think that'd be a really good spot for the Eagles. I think then they've got their next guard. You know, though it's an amazing offensive line. Don't get me wrong, it is aging. That you got your heir apparent there to come in. I don't know if he has center flexibility, but I think that'd be a steal for the Eagles there at that position.
Potentially, he'll be able to learn from one of the best, wouldn't he? If he did be able to transition to center. So the Cincinnati Bengals at 28.
Yeah, now I feel this is a fairly obvious problem that they have I know they've brought Orlando Brown in, but Jonah Williams has requested a trade, hasn't he? And it's looking like he might be on the move. So I think they'll go O-line for an O-line that needs to keep Joe Burrow up as well. So I think that feels like the obvious thing to go for. When you look at the tackles there's Deward Jones, and I don't really know that much about Matthew Bergeron, but Darnell Wright at Tennessee he looked a very good prospect. You're going to have to keep going down and down and down.
I've gone back up to search. There we go. Darnell Wright.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Darnell Wright. I think he looks a very good prospect. And the thing is that because of bringing in Orlando Brown, play left tackle, it kind of means that Wright could play right tackle, which would work quite well for him, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't know too much of him myself, but I like me some Tennessee players. But 29, New Orleans.
Oh, is there any Ohio State players left on the board? Because that's what they usually do. I'm actually going to go for. You know what? I don't really want to do this because I think he could fall to the Chiefs. I'm going to stop the Nolan Smith dropping. I think Nolan Smith could go here. They've got aging edge rushers. I've been putting Will McDonald here a lot as one who's not seen as a top edge rusher, but a player that is probably worth a risk. I'm going to go Nolan Smith here. I don't think he'll go this low at all. I think he could go from like a 10 down, 10 to 18, I think might be where he will go. But it seems as he's fell in this, I'm going to stop him falling. I think that makes sense. They've got aging edge rushers for the Saints. They're a team that constantly is looking for the next defensive guy, the next guy up. I think that really works there for them.
Nice. Philadelphia back in at 30.
So I think I kind of agree with what Fred said when it comes to Osiris Torrance. I do think that he would make sense at guard, and that is it's really difficult. I think it will be him, or I think it will be Felix and Adiki Uzma. I think they're the two that they would probably go for there because it's O-line and D-line, and it's what they do. They just get as many people in the trenches as they can.
Who did you take at 10 again?
Yeah, but they'll do it. They will do it. This is the thing.
Double dip edge rusher.
Yeah,
Miles Murphy.
Because it's what they do. Miles Murphy is the sort of thing that they would do. I think for this particular one, we'll go Osiris Torrance. Just say they can have one on each side. I think that kind of makes the most sense.
In fact, can't we get the Steelers trading up to 30 to go and get him?
But I do really. It wouldn't shock me if they went for 2 D-linemen.
So I get the last pick.
Yeah, anything's possible. Like you say, they love to bolster the trenches. Pick 31, the last one of the round, because Miami forfeited theirs for. Well, we all know what happened, but Kansas City Chiefs.
Now, again, I've gone wide receiver with this every time, but I don't think there's anyone left other than Josh Downs, maybe. I think they could go that way. However, they've not got Frank Clark anymore, and I think people forget how much Frank Clark did in that defense. So I'm going to go Will McDonald here. Really good edge rusher out of Iowa State. I think this is like a perfect area that he's probably going to go in. He's one of them guys who may slip into the second round. Again, Felix, I'm not going to butcher his surname, but he could equally go at this pick as well. I think there's got 3 or 4 edge rushers that could go within this 27 to 33 range. But a heck of a pickup, and it's a Frank Clark replacement that they'll need. I know they took George Karlaftis the other year. They've also got Chris Jones on that line, but you've got a young replacement there for Frank Clark.
Very nice, because I can be a bit of an idiot sometimes. I didn't change it to 1 round. It's still set as 2, which is the standard with PFF. I'll run through them rather than show you the overall. CJ Stroud at 1 Bryce Young 2, Will Anderson 3 to the Cardinals, Richardson at 4 to the Colts, Tyree Wilson at 5 to the Seahawks, Christian Gonzalez at 6, Skoronski 7, Van Ness 8, Carter 9 to the Bears, Miles Murphy 10, Broderick Jones 11 to Tennessee, Devon Witherspoon at 12, Paris Johnson Jr. 13, Anton Harrison 14, Quentin Johnson 15, Brian Branch 16, Joey Porter Jr. 17 to the Steelers, Kalijah Cansey to the Lions, Will Levis to Tampa Bay, Jackson Smith and Jigba to 20, Miami can fuck off, Bijan Robinson 21, Zay Flowers 22, Brian Bressie 23 to the Vikings. Thank you, Freddie. Deontay Banks, 24. Jordan Anderson, 25. Kincaid, 26. Cam Smith, 27 to the Bills. Before Darnell Wright at 28. Nolan Smith, 29. Torrance, 30. And Will McDonald, the 4th, at 31 overall to Kansas City. I really wish I didn't set it to 2 rounds now.
The only thing I dislike is I think that the Lions would take Brian Bresee rather than Kalijah Cansey. I think that would be swapped personally, but I don't know. You change one pick, it changes everything, doesn't it? In a way, and we all have different opinions about what team is to strengthen where.
Yeah, it's a funny one because it's pretty much whoever impresses Dan Campbell the most out of those guys. I think for whoever he meets and whoever's gonna stick their neck on the line the most, isn't it, for him?
I agree.
But yeah, some interesting picks, and I will share the board on Twitter tomorrow. But yeah, lads, thank you for joining me and thank you for going through that.
All right.
No problem at all. Had a lot of fun. Enjoyed it.
Awesome. Freddie, let everyone know where they can find you guys and your show.
So yeah, the Franchise Tag podcast. We're Franchise Tag UK on all social media platforms. We're on YouTube as well, so make sure you like and subscribe. Loads of content coming out. We're in free agency. A few mock the mocks, which Andrew and Adam are doing on the Franchise Tag as well. We're also on TikTok as well now. Our good friend Sky's taking over TikTok, doing a lot of fun things on there. For the one who's like the middle-aged one in all the group, he's the TikTok star. I mean, I'm younger than him and I haven't got a clue what's going on. Adam definitely doesn't have a clue what's going on. He's far too old for that business. So got TikTok as well. That should be good fun. Obviously on all podcast platforms. Lots to come from Franchise Tag in 2023.
Yes, go and give the guys a follow on Twitter. All their stuff is shared there. They've got loads of articles coming out at the minute from all different writers as well. And that is that for another episode of Fantasy Nuts UK. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, good night.